Welcome, everybody. My name's Phil Chudley, and I'm a member of Southants Model Railway Club, SHMRC. I've been using Templot for more years than I care to remember, and I did actually present Templot at the last year's Skills Day in Didcot, which is in fact the last exhibition I attended before lockdown. In fact, I think it's probably the last exhibition many of us attended before lockdown. So this idea of this video here and demonstration is to present Templot for those of you who have heard about it, tried to use it, and just literally given up. It's not designed for those of you who have actually used Templot and are pretty adept at Templot. So pretty much for beginners, confused people, and just people who want to get a hold of Templot itself. Before I start, I want to give a very big shout out to Martin Wynn. He's the guy who developed Templot, according to Martin, 40 years ago, and still continues to develop Templot to this day. Provides excellent support via the Templot Club. We all owe a massive massive compliment to Martin for doing Templot. Many thanks, Martin. Keep up the good work. Before we start actually delving or diving into Templot, it's probably worth looking at what Templot is and, most importantly, what it isn't. So first of all, let's see what Templot is not. Well, it's most definitely not a CAD program. Although you can export from Templot into a CAD program, it is definitely not a CAD program. For those of you who used TurboCAD, Autodesk, and all those kind of things. No, new learning curve. It's not a layout design program, and there are many of these available. Third Planet, AnyRail, SCARM. Generally speaking, with the exception of Third Planet, these allow you to take pre-built templates and patch them together to form track plans, particularly SCARM. Third Planet is a little bit more adventurous, but Templot isn't designed like these programs, and you could use it complementary to them, I guess, but certainly it isn't the same idea as those programs. It's also free, where those are you have to pay for. Templot it's a program for designing and printing accurate templates, and the idea is that it's for hand-built track. I suppose you could do a Pico turnout in Templot. I've never bothered, and I don't think I ever will. But it's primarily for hand-built track for pretty much any gauge you could conceive. Obviously, we'll be using EM gauge for our demonstration. Now, some Templot terms. It's always good to have a solid foundation in a piece of software before you open it up and get into the nitty-gritty of and the fun of using it. The first one is a control template. Simple. This is the template that you're currently working on, the template that is being edited, modified, and changed in appearance in any way. So that's the control template. You then have a load of background templates. And background templates are where your control template has been saved to the background. And they don't have to be, but often they are connected to form a track plan. But it's quite legal and quite common to have a Templot project, which is just turnout A, turnout B, turnout C, different angles, different switch sizes, and so on. And I've done that for libraries and things. So this is a template, a very simple one, just a plain piece of straight track. What I'd like to just spend a few moments on are these symbols. What does all these cryptic things mean? This square, and it's very important that you know these so you don't get any surprises when you try things out in Templot. First of all, the peg. This is this round little circle with a cross in it. That is the datum. And essentially, this is from where everything is changed. So if you did the length change, it would go that way from the peg. If you did a rotate, it will rotate about the peg. If you did a curvature, it would curve from this peg. Now the peg is shown in the middle here, or sorry, at the end, I should say. But you can put the template, the peg in the middle of a plain piece of straight track, so to curve it symmetrically about the middle. Turnouts are far more complicated with peg positions, and there are a couple of common ones which we can have a look at in the demo. Now, we have a main side marker, which is that little square. Now that is very, very useful for when you do making double track, triple track, quadruple track, or any other end track. It tells you what side you're going to get your copy of your track, your double track on. So have a look at that. You might need to zoom in on the Templot plan to see these markers, but they are there. There's also a notch. Now the notch is primarily used for aligning things, and the peg moves over the notch. In certain circumstances, the notch will move over the peg, but it is basically a locking mechanism for joining templates together. Yeah, so that's what we say on that one. A suggested workflow. Now, when we do the demonstration, we're going to follow this workflow because we're going to do a brand new track plan. And we're going to set the scale and gauge because Templot, as you'll see in a few moments, doesn't actually set a standard gauge. Okay. Set the grid units. Some people prefer to work in millimeters, some people prefer to work in inches. It's entirely up to you. It won't affect the actual templates you create. It just makes them easier to visualize on your baseboard or your railway room, garage, loft, or whatever. There is something I don't do is set a workspace color scheme, but you can if you wish. You can change the theme colors if you wanted to. There are some options, and the one that I will show you is the menu spacing. And when we start Templot, the first thing you'll notice is it is a Windows application, but doesn't look like any Windows application you've probably seen before. It does have menus, yes. It has dialogues, yes, but they look subtly different. But you can adjust the menu spacing. Then that's the main part of the template. You'll design your template, your templates for forming a track plan or a collection of templates from which you want to build your track work. Save them. Yeah, it'd be a good idea to save them. Templot's rather suggestive to you in that if you haven't saved anything and you try to close Templot, it will in fact say, hey, you haven't saved it. Would you like to save it? And yeah, obviously you would say yes. Print the templates. Now, this is one thing, obviously, I can't demonstrate in a video. I have to be there in person with a printer. But effectively, this says may require a printer calibration. Templot does produce very accurate output. And for that, there's a setup needed for your printer. It's called calibration. Simply put, Templot prints out an image, and then you do some measurements, enter those measurements into Templot, and it prints a proof page. You double check the measurements, and that's it. A one-stop shop. You only have to do this before you print for the very first time, or if you've changed your printer. And then quit. And if you've changed the menu spacing, and there are one or two other things along the way, which Templot will say, would you like to remember your choices on this dialogue? Would you never like to see this dialogue again? And so on. All of those are saved in what are known as a preference file. We won't start with a preference file, but we'll show you how you can create one if you need to. So that's the suggested workflow. There are more than one way of doing it, Templot, there always is. But this is the workflow we will be following. So now we're going to do a demonstration. Now, Templot, I would absolutely be honest with you, is not a quick fix. If you just want to do a standard B8 turnout in M-gauge, yes, you can do it at about, well, no effort at all. You just put the template on and print it. End of story. But what the challenge in Templot is how do you create these templates into a flowing track plan? We have to be realistic. This video is going to be probably an hour, possibly more. I'll try to keep it within that time frame. So there is a limit to how much we can delve into Templot. The demonstration will show you how, from the beginning, you can do a track plan, a simple track plan, how to do the more common things that people would like to do. And this is the track plan I'm going to give. Now, again, I'll do kudos to Martin. This is very similar to a demonstration that Martin has done. And I thought it was an excellent track plan to give beginners and people who are confused in Templot a heads up. So I've modified it slightly. This is the plan we will end up with. Double track, where the spacing between these two is on a very large radius and uses the standard 6-foot way setting. We have a double junction here with a crossover. And when we go round this curve, two things will happen. A, it will widen as we go through. So the gap there is slightly wider than here. So it's going to widen all the way through. And it's going to have a transition between this curve and this curve. There are also transitions between these two curves and this approach here. And just for fun, stick in a platform there. So that is the track plan we're going to do. So we're not going to do anything advanced on this video like slips, three ways, or anything that's turntables, anything like that. Because frankly, unless you can do the basics, you wouldn't be able to do the advanced stuff. So it's quite possible, if demand warrants it, you could do another video to supplement this one on the more advanced features. Those of you who have mastered this stuff and want to go to the next level. So for now, we will terminate this slide deck, and then we'll return back to fire up Templot and dive right in. So launch Templot. And Templot has two options. Go using my preferences. Now, as this is potentially mimicking the first time we've used Templot, we won't have any preferences. So we'll just click go. And when you click go, it says here connects to templot.com. It does require internet connection. So basically phones home to make sure you're getting the latest version of Templot. If you haven't got the latest Templot version, the latest one, it will be downloaded and installed automatically for you upon request. So go. We got the latest version, so we're all ready to go. It says, yes, please restore previous work. Well, we haven't got any previous work, so we're not going to restore it. So we say, no thanks. And here is what is called the Templot program panel. And we'll come back to this in a moment. Templot is a Windows application, but probably doesn't look like any other Windows application you've used, apart from it has menus. All right, so if you click a menu, you'll get menus. It has a toolbar, which we'll be using quite a lot in our demo, and it has dialogues, but the dialogues are pretty stylized, but they're very, very informative and easy to read. Okay. So the menus. Now, if you're used to using a Windows application, you've probably not seen these spaced out menus before. And it's a matter of personal preference whether you want to use these long spaced out menus or whether you want to use the conventional menus. Personally, I use the conventional menus, which are available in Templot by selecting Show Main Program Panel from the Program menu, then clicking Program and unchecking blank spaces in menus. Uncheck that. Close this. No, don't close that because otherwise you'll close Templot. Oh dear. Just click somewhere else and that would close the dialog. And then you'll see in the menus, it is back to a more familiar compact form. Okay, no problems at all. So this template here with a turnout in it on a curve is actually to a fictitious track gauge called T55. So the first thing we'll need to do is to select our gauge that we want to produce our templates for, and that is on the gauge menu. And here are a large number of most common form of gauges, and where you have like for example 2mm fine scale, EM, S4, P4, S. These have all been pre-populated with the standards stipulated by the relevant societies. So selecting EM will ensure our templates conform to the track standards as defined in the M gauge society. So I'll just click that down, and that is now EM gauge. The other thing we would like to do is to change our background template from this grid markings here, which are in millimeters, and I'm going to use inches. Two reasons. One, to show you how to change the grid, and B, I want to use inches to set my radii of my curves. To change the trackpad, you just go to the trackpad menu, drop it down, trackpad grid options, and there's loads of options you can do there. You can even have prototype feet spacing if you really wanted to. Let's use 3-inch spaces. That's fine. And there we are. It changes to 3 inches. Now, what we'd like to do, and we can start anywhere in Templot, actually. You could start off with your turnouts, but usually a plan is to get the straight mainline track in first, or or your branch track, and then put your turnout on a specific position within that turnout of that mainline track. And that's what we'll do. And recalling the track plan we looked at earlier, we're going to start off on the left-hand side with the curve, which is pretty much a 180-degree curve. And that is going to be set to 48-inch radius. All right. So the first thing we need to do here is simply to make this a plain piece of track. And that is done on the template menu. And it says here, convert to plain track. No, it's now plain track. Now, the peg down this end, remember, is where all changes will be made from. This is the datum. So if I curved, this would actually curve the wrong way. I want it to curve sort of like this. If I look at my mouse that way, not that way. So I need to put this peg at this end. That's not a problem. There's a toolbar for that, and it's this one labeled 0. Clicking that will simply swap the peg from one end of the template to the other end of the template. Later, we'll do some more adventurous things with the peg position, but for now, that's absolutely fine. To curve, well, there is a tool entry here called curve, And so I can see exactly what I'm doing, I'm just going to zoom out here like that and ready to making this a little bit longer. And to curve, I simply either A, use the mouse, or B, set an exact curving position. Now the dialogue is in millimeters. Now you may well know what 48 inches is in millimeters, but if you don't, Templot has a very handy metric calculator, little pop-up calculator, which allows you to convert from millimeters to inches, foot to inches, and also to scale size as well. So if you want to know what 20 feet in prototype is in 4mm scale, you can find out. So let's put 48 inches in there. Click calculate. We find it's 1219.20. So 19, sorry, should type it correctly, 1219.20. And put that away and simply click on the enter, click OK, and there is our curve confirmed by this dialog here, which I usually keep visible, and it will show you the current radius, or to be pedantic, the smallest radius in that template, because a template could have more than one radii. This one here, this is the minimum radius, and this will flash red if I go underneath 750, which is deemed to be the minimum radius in EM gauge. So this curve is on the right radii, but it's not radius rather, but it's not of the right length. So clicking length allows me to use my mouse and just simply go round like that. If I scroll down the page a bit like this, I can see I've got a C-shaped curve. It's not in the right position though. Well, that's okay. I can simply move the template. So I simply say Shift and join. Although there's nothing to join it to, Shift will work perfectly. So I'm going to shift it to the right and up a bit. And this is the inner curve. I want always start with the sharpest radius when doing double track, of course, and stop. Okay, so let's just move that a bit there, that way, and collapse that dialog a bit out the way. There we are. What I'd now like to do is to put the mainline track for the platform, which is going to go roughly like my mouse is showing. It's a 20-foot radius. Now this is the control template, but it's not currently in the background. It's not been stored. So a simple way to do that is to use these two red arrows here, implying store. So now it's stored. Up comes a piece of information. And if you're brand new to Templot, you could glance through this. It gives you some background information. Once you start using Templot a lot, you'll get very familiar with all of these things on this dialog, and you don't really need to see all the program information. You don't want to see everything like this. You just say, don't show this again in this session, and continue. Okay. You'll notice once I've got the template onto the background, the control template is still there, but it's right on top of the background template. I know there's a background template because of this little label here, which is the template name for it. You can hide these by pressing End on the keypad, and that toggles the labels on and off. I usually leave them off. To make this curve here, I simply move the template like that. And now I need to reshape it because it's totally the wrong way. It's the wrong orientation. So I basically need to rotate this template. I could rotate it about this peg here, but let's do something a bit different. Let's move the peg to the midpoint and rotate about the midpoint. So to move the peg, we go to the geometry menu, choose peg positions and peg on mid length. There are a number of options here, many of which you'll never ever need to use. And if you are working around with turnouts and things, there's a mind-boggling number of them. So I'll just produce it on the mid length, and there you see it right in the middle. Now we can rotate this about the midpoint. Rotate. Yes, you can do a specific number of degrees, but I find it just as easy to use the mouse like that, until it's around equal. There we go. Perfect. And stop. To make this a 20-foot radius, we just do exactly what we did to this one. So curve, enter. Now, if you happen to know what 20 foot is, then do that. Otherwise, I'll just put 20 feet in here, calculate, and it happens to be 6,096. So 6,096 millimeters. Enter, click OK. And that is a nice, gentle curve for our platform. If I'm picky, I guess I could just rotate it ever so slightly. Yeah. Now I need to move it in position. So I need to move it like this. Now I've got to be careful I don't overlap it like that, because the next stage won't work. So I'm just going to position it ever so slightly below, just like that. You don't need to get it precise, but as long, yeah, that'd do fine, like that. And what I'd like to do is to make a transition between this curve and that curve. If you want smooth running on your layout, as we all do, we don't want to have a hard gap, join between a constant radius curve and a constant radius curve. Not a great idea. We want a transition. And a transition, you could eyeball it on FlexiTrack if you really wanted to, but the math is a little bit troublesome. So why bother? Let Templot work it out for you. Dead easy. All you need to do is have your control template here, select a template to which the transition will be created, and it's highlighted in white. Go over to the menu that pops up, and it's on the peg align. Yeah, align transition to, yeah. You'll use this time and time and time again, so you will get familiar. The sequence is peg align transition, or PT if you want to use keyboard. Make transition link. And what it will do is Templot will calculate a transition. And in this particular case, as you can see, it's perfect, absolutely perfect. But there is the opposite hand transition, which it can do occasionally. And you certainly don't want that option. If you find that Templot hasn't got the calculation right first time, just click no, try opposite hand. Now, there's one other thing we need to be aware of. It says here, delete the original template. Now, what that does is it makes this template extendable on this constant radius this way, and extendable on the constant radius that way. So you get one big template for the entire curve. And you may think, that's actually quite cool. It reduces the number of templates. But, and there's always a but, the number of templates is not really important. Okay? It isn't, unless you are particularly worried about managing lots of things. But there is one very important thing. Plan ahead. We are going to make a double track here, and we will ultimately want a diamond crossing. Now, Templot does diamond crossings very well, but it will not put a diamond crossing on a transition curve. It will just give you an error saying, sorry, it's on a transition curve, can't do it. So if you ever find yourself in that position, what you'll have to do is split the template. And that is not as obvious to how to do that as you may think. So in this particular case, and I would advise until you really know how Templot works, and for the first time you use Templot, or first times you use Templot, don't delete the original templates, just say yes, continue, and we're left with the control template being the transition, the original template we created as one, and the other template as we did over here. So now comes a very vital part of Templot. How do you swap templates? We don't wish to work on this control template. We want to edit this template or this one. And the way to do that is A, this needs to be saved to the background. B, this needs to be made the control. Well, that's quite easy because we can do that in one operation. Select the template you want to be the control template and select M, make the control. What this does is it saves the current control to the background and makes your selected template the one that you wish to work with, the control template. We need to adjust the length, and you can see the peg is the wrong end. So click to put it down the other end, length, and we can adjust it. When you get quite close, zoom in, click there, zoom in, and then another length, and you will adjust. Now, in this particular case, getting the two lines bang on will give you the correct sleeper spacing. There you are. Occasionally, you won't get the correct sleeper spacing, and there are tools to modify that, or I'll show you a little trick which I use a little bit later when the situation arises. There we are. Zoom out a bit, like that. Zoom out. Yep. And now I want to make this one the control template while saving my existing control. So click there, press M on the keyboard, and you can see that, yes, this time the peg is the right end for my length adjustment. There's the mouse going, and we're getting close to the end there, like that, like that. A little bit of length adjustment, a little bit more. And now you can see we've got no real easy way of getting the sleeper spacing. But if you overlap that sleeper on that one, you got the perfect sleeper spacing. Okay, you won't have the right rail joint spacing like this, but if you're using FlexiTrack, that isn't going to make any one scrap of difference. If you're making your track as individual track panels, yes, you'll need to make sure that the number of sleepers per length is correct, and it probably isn't across there. If it isn't, no, I'm not going to count them up by any means. You can select the adjacent template and say roll rails to match. And I'm going to use Control 0. And yeah, it's now calculated them correctly. It has misaligned this a little bit, but that's fine. A little bit of length. And there we go. So now we got the right number of sleepers in the across the template join. If you're using FlexiTrack, you don't need to worry. Okay. Now that's how you do, join templates together to form a track. You could carry on round the room and make this a roundy, but we want a bit of variety in our demo. So what we're going to do is this is the inside track because it's got the sharpest radius. And we want to make this a double track. Now recall there is a marker, and that is that little square indicating the main line side. And there is a tool for double track turnout side, exactly what we want. There is another option, which is on a menu for turnout main side, which we'll be using a little bit later. So we click double track turnout side, and here Templot is really cool. It allows you to adjust the adjacent track spacing from the prototype default of 134 inches, 44.67, which is absolutely okay for very generous radius and also for straight track. It won't be suitable for our 48-inch radius at the left-hand side of our plan, but now absolutely perfect. So keep 44.67. If you find that is a little bit narrow for yourself and you want to make it bigger, by all means, click in model millimeters and put in your chosen track center, like 50, 55 or something like that. But I'm going to keep it at 44.67 and just click continue. And there is my double track. And the new track is, no surprises, is my control template. Okay. Now you could say, why don't we just continue around making double track? Yeah, absolutely. You could do, but I don't want to. The reason being is because this curve here, I want to make the track center wider. And I want to have a general gradual increase of the track center along this transition. So if I simply made the transition parallel, a double track, it wouldn't work, right? It wouldn't allow me to do that. In addition, Templot will create a double track on a transition, but it has to make some mathematical adjustment to the calculation of the transition. And you may need a little bit of after tidying. So in this particular case, that is not the correct strategy. The correct strategy would be to select this constant radius curve, make that the control template. And now, if I zoom in on this, you will see that the little square is on the main side. So I want to put a double track on the main side. And to do that, all I need to do is to go to the menu. Now, the most common menus you'll use in Templot are, in no particular order, template, reel, geometry, action, do, tools, and group. Now, in this particular demo, we will show you reel, geometry. We've shown you geometry and template. We're also going to do action. We don't use do, but we will be using tools. There are a large number of options per menu. And yes, you don't need to memorize them. I certainly don't. But the more familiar you get with Templot, the more familiar you'll get to know where these are. It would become natural. Of course, if you don't use Templot for 6 months after this video, then you probably have to review the video. But that's true with any complex software. So we go down here and choose double track on main side. There is a keyboard shortcut for that, but I very rarely use that one. And now 44.67 is just too close. Our vehicles are going to hit each other. So what we're going to do is we could use prototype inches, but let's use model millimeters. And for this demo, anyway, I'm going to whack it up to 55. 55. click enter, and make sure it's 55 on both sides. Templot does require a value for turnout side and the main side. So click enter. And there we are. You should see the gap is wider there. And now, if I make this longer, just to do a sanity check, to make sure that that curve doesn't cross my existing main line, so it doesn't cross it, it misses it completely. I do this because Templot cannot calculate a transition where the lines cross each other. They cannot intersect, but this will be absolutely fine. So selecting the template I want the transition to. Whoops, that's the wrong one. Very nearly made a catastrophic error there. Select that. We got P and T, make transition link. And again, the transition's nice. It's a tad too short. That's fine, but is the right transition. So if we just use our length and just make this a little bit bigger and overlap the sleepers to get the sleeper spacing, it's about right. Yeah, it's about right. There we are. There is our nice transition. Now notice it gets progressively wider as we move along the transition, which is absolutely what we intended. The final thing to do would be to take this one here as make this the control template and simply adjust its length like that. Zoom in, adjust the length, and there we have. There we are. So if I use this button here, I get the entire track plan. So that's not too bad. That's all our main line done. So now what we can do is address our crossover down here. Now you can put the crossover anywhere on that particular main line. And I'm going to start with the lower curve so I can put the diamond crossing in first. I find it probably easier to do that. And what I want to do is I want to ensure that the diamond is definitely on this constant radius curve, the one I'm highlighting here. This means I could put the turnout here or just on the transition. You won't be able to put it right down here because the diamond is on a transition and that's illegal. So I'm going to put my turnout roughly around here. So to do that, I need to make this the control template. I'll just put M. And to put a turnout aligned to the curvature of this selected template is easy. Template menu, insert turnout in plain track. And there is a turnout. Now the turnout, it will have a starting planing length and a starting crossing angle. In this case, it's a BV6 or B6 in short term. So if you need to change that, then what you do is you go to the template and either change the switch settings, of which there are many. Now, it's probably not a good, we can't go through every option on this video, but basically you've got all the different types of switches here. And there is a very good little document that Martin has created, which goes through all the explanations of what all these are. But basically, you've got straight heel, flexible heel. A straight heel is a hinged, and this one is flexible. That's a curve flexible for GWRs. There are some very special ones for Great Western Railway. They like to do things their own way, of course. We have some flat bottom ones here as well. I don't use flat bottom rail. I've always used bullethead. But if you want flat bottom, there you go. These ones for slips and tandems you will never need because that's been built into Templot right now. You can even create your own custom switch. So if you model pre-group and you want an exact copy of a pre-group template or an interlaced turnout or something like that, then you can set that up. And yeah, I guess that could be the topic of another Templot video. B is fine for us. We want a railway engineering authority, semi-curve, flexible. That is what most people will use. If you are modelling the Great Western Railway or some other railway that uses joggle stock rails, you can also put the joggle stock rail checkbox on and it will put the joggle in for you. Yeah, okay, cool. So B is fine. Now let's have a look at the crossing angle, V crossing. So you've got all the crossing angles from 4 up to 12, and if you really want some ultra high speed, I guess you could go to a 1 in 15 or whatever. And then you've got these crossing ones. Now, the regular crossing is what we're going to use, and it's most commonly used. If you've got a widely deflecting contraflexion, which basically means you've got a turnout on a curve and you want the turnout part to go really curved, then you need a curviform. But basically, we'll need a regular crossing. I'm just going to keep things relatively straightforward for today. And I'm going to change it to 1 in 7. Now, the reason I want 1 in 7 is just to give me a nice, angle to work with. 1 in 6 may be considered a bit sharp on a main line. So I'm going to put a 1 in 7 in there. And that will give me a 1 in 7 diamond, or close to a 1 in 7 diamond. More about diamonds in a moment. So there we are, a 1 in 7. So you saw a slight adjustment in the length of the turnout. The longer the crossing and the longer the planing, then yes, the longer the turnout. They do occupy a surprising amount of space. So now we can see, even though we're zoomed out, this turnout is the wrong end of the template, and it's also the potentially the wrong hand. So if I use the toolbar and say facing trailing, it will now shift it to the right end, and yay, it's the right hand for us. So that's cool. Zoom in on here. Now it's perfectly possible that's in exactly the right position. But is there a way we could actually have a good guideline as to where and a preview of what we're going to do before we commit putting a diamond crossing in? Absolutely. What we can do is we can extend the length of this turnout. And that is available on the action menu, mouse actions, adjust turnout road exit. If I do that, you'll see we get a preview of where the diamond would be, just like that. All right. Now, if you want to have a look at what it would, how it would affect if you moved it along this template, there's a cool feature called roam. If you ever click roam, you'll see that just slides right along, and you can get, okay, I want my diamond. Should we say I want my diamond there, like that, and I can just put it there. So basically, what you're doing is adjusting the approach length and also the exit length. And that's fine. Perfect. Now, before we go any further and put the actual crossing in there, we have two choices about this template. You can either leave it as it is, or we can split it into 2 templates or potentially 3 templates. The turnout itself, the approach road, and the exit. Now, the approach is really tiny, so I wouldn't bother that. But you may wish to treat this as a separate template. So you could control platform length and that kind of thing, or just print out this template for constructing that turnout without printing the whole thing. There's no, massive advantage over one or the other, but here we go. I should have said earlier, but this is the way I use Templot. There are many different ways of doing what we're doing in this demo using Templot. This is not the only way, but if I was you, I would stick to a way that works for you. And the method I'm showing in this video works for me, hence the reason I'm doing it this way. So there we are, that's it. And what I would do is I now wish to put a piece of track on here. Okay, so ideally what I need to do is to make sure I've got this one stored in the background. So I do that, and now I want a new template, and I want, so I click new, and I want plain track, and I want it straight will be fine, like that. I don't want to create a turnout. I just want plain track straight. Okay, great. Plain track straight. Click OK, and there it is. There's my new template. What I want to do is shift this so it aligns exactly to this guideline I had here. And I do that, shift and join, and I just move this around, move it close to the turnout, and it will snap. Now you'll see it doesn't actually snap exactly on the line there. That's not a problem, because all I need to do is to go down here and curve it so that it does align. There we are. That's now aligned nicely. Okay, now the fun part. We're going to put a diamond in. So that is one line. That's one line. They're curved, so it's going to be in a regular diamond, but that is one curve. That's a curve. So select the other line or template, which is going to cross this one. Go to peg, align, D, make diamond and intersection. And Templot will give you some information about it, and it will tell you that there are some important things about diamonds. Number one, if you get too acute at the angle, it's roughly below 4, you might get away with 3.5, 3.75. Templot just will not create it. It's just too acute, and you have to do something a little bit special. For angles above 1 in 8, you would need to create a switch diamond. This does a regular diamond with K-rails and things like in obtuse crossings. You'll need to put a switch diamond in. So I mean, this in particular angle isn't over 1 in 8 deliberately. So this is, we can just use this function to continue and make a crossing at the notch. There we are. Now the actual diamond has been created, and it says here, yes, but leave back. There's some options here. Yes, split extend background template to fit. I do that anyway. I just do that. And there we are. And it's done its best to trim all this up. It does leave you with this control template being a bit of straight track. And it also does gives you the turnouts like that. Sorry, the crossings with their exits here, which you may or may not want. So what the first thing I want to do is to get rid of this exit track here, because it doesn't really apply in my particular plan. So selecting this diamond here, and making it the control template, I can now split this exit. Split exit. And there it is. It's off. Okay. Get rid of it. I would deal with the deletion in a moment. So if I want to get rid of this completely, what I can do is make another template the control, but instead of using M, I use T, which is delete the control. And basically what it means is whatever I select will be my new template, but I will delete the current control template. So let me show you what happens. Selecting this one down here and pressing T on the keypad, it warns me that there's going to be a deletion. Having seen the warning, I don't want to see it again. So just say yes. And there you can see that control template, originally control template, did not go on the background, but this one is now the control template. So that's a nice little trick. Although I don't technically need to do it, it would be useful to do this, is to get rid of these guides. Okay, get rid of those guides. I don't need them anymore. They were just a planning aid. So if I make that my control template, go back to action, mouse actions, just turn out road, and as you can see, the little black line will move down. And if I zoom over here, I can see where I don't want this anymore. So action, mouse actions, adjust turnout, and then you can see if I take it almost back to the turnout itself, just about there, it's fine. So I've got the complete common crossing. That's fine. Yep. Now, while we're on this zoomed end, you Templot will do this template very, very accurately when it prints. It's got a number of markers which are perhaps worth pointing out to you right now. One of them is there are the breaks. So if you were making this common crossing, there is your isolation break between this and the fixed switch rails here. So these are the switch rails. There you've got the break where you've got the movable part of the switch rails. There's the switch blade, and that's the switch blade over its slide chairs. And here you have the stock rails with their brakes here. Now the stock rail curvature is quite complicated, but it has a curvature here and straight here, and it has a straight part past the planing, and then a radius here and another radius there for this particular type of turnout. Now, if I zoom in on the planing, so just to explain exactly what you get out of Templot, here is a marker which shows you the end of the switchblade tips supported on this timber, and that is known as the set mark, so that when the stock rail is formed, there's a bend here to accommodate the planing, so it actually bends, and that part there is straight from there to there, across there, and that's the planing length there, and that of course is the tie bar there. For larger switches, you may get 2 tie bars put in by Templot, but that is very nice. And all the gaps here are set to the EM or P4 standards. Suffice to say, although this is dead accurate, when constructing a turnout using this template, always obviously use your turnout jigs. Don't rely just by eyeballing and putting those on. No, always use the gauges. Of course, always use gauges. But this is an accurate template. It definitely is accurate. So there we are. That is the first part of our crossing. Now let's turn our attention down to here. Let's now imagine that this crossing goes to an island platform. So you've got 2 roads here, an island platform and 2 roads. So what I'd like to do is put the island platform against this template here. So make this one the control template, and we want to put some platforms on here. So to do that, we use the real menu and platforms. You could also do trackbed edges as well, for the ballast edge and all that kind of cess edge and everything. If you really wanted to, you can actually plot all that on platforms. Now we need the main side because there's a little tiny square there just about visible. Add main side platform, ka-ching, and there it goes. Now it has a default width of 144 inches, 12 foot. Now for an island platform, that's a tad too narrow. So what we're going to do is set the width at the start, which is going to be not 144 inches, but I'm going to make this 20 feet. Right? So I'm going to make it a 20-foot platform, which is 240 inches. I could have worked out. Of course I could. And at the end side, 240. So it's 240 both ends. There we are. It's a bit wider. Now, obviously, the platform doesn't start at this end because, of course, we've got this rail going here. So now what I want to do is to adjust the length. So if I just bring the length back, I guess I'm going to guesstimate it about there because this is going to curve in. I can always adjust the platform later, but let's just go just a tad over halfway. There you go. Okay. So now I need to put a parallel line here, which it goes against this platform. And the easiest way to do that is simply to make this track a double track on the main side. Okay. And it doesn't matter what track center you use. I'm going to keep 44.67. And then if I zoom in like this and use my shift, and just move the track up like that, so the sleepers just about clear the platform like that. That's pretty much in the right position, like that. So there we are. That's not looking too bad. Yeah, excellent. So now to make a nice smooth entry into this platform, I'm going to make this curve a transition into this platform. Now I can't do that directly because this curve, this track is part of the diamond. And if I just make this the control template and then I want to curve it, I will curve the diamond. And that's definitely not what I want to do. So two-stage process. Make it the control and split the exit. Now it's the control template. Adjust the length and adjust the curve so it does not cross. Now, you may need to zoom in on this and do the curve so it doesn't. Now, you might need to keep adjusting the length, adjusting the curve. Yeah, that doesn't. That is actually going to miss all the way. It's not going to hit each other. If you don't get it right, don't worry. Templot will soon tell you that it can't do the transition. It really will. So now we do a transition to here. We just do P transition. And this time the transition is definitely wrong. You can see it just doesn't look right. So try the opposite hand. And now, yeah, that's looking cool. That's much better. And we can just do what we did earlier. Take each template in turn and adjust its length like that. So that one's now there. Go up to the other end to take the other template, make that the control, and also adjust its length. Now that one isn't quite good there. That's the actual sleeper spacing isn't right, but we can adjust that later should we really need to. I'll just leave it right now. Okay, so that's that. And now what we'd like to do is to put in the other turnout here and a track which is pretty much parallel to this lot here, right? So this is a main side. So what I'll do is I'll start to put in the main line, the parallel line or the main double track for here. So this is tools, make double track on main side. And again, I'll leave it at 44.67. The rest of that will be done later. Okay, so that's that one. So now, having got that, I can put a turnout into this piece of track. It is quite short, but it is long enough to put a turnout into. So make that the control. Insert turnout in plain track. It is V6, so I will use the template to make it a 7. If this was a 7, that should be a 7. And as you can see, it's A facing the wrong way. So I do facing trading. And now it's the wrong hand. So left hand to right hand, and it's pretty much okay. Now, ideally, as far as I want this crossing to be pretty much opposite each other. So in other words, these two sleepers I want exactly on the right side. So the way to do that is not to roam, but to slide. And I don't believe there's any slide. I can't see any slide on the toolbar, but I can tell you now it's Control F6, which is called snake through peg. And I'm just going to move just a tad, just a little tiny bit like that. The only reason I did that was to line up the timbers because I'm planning ahead again. Right. So now, if I extend the exit just as I did before, just to make sure that it will align. Now, pretty much it won't. So I think I might need to do a little bit of sliding around, but if I just align, because I want this to align up, definitely want these to align. Like that. And if I do my Control F6 again, just move it ever so slightly. There you go. That's important that it lines up with that. It's not important the crossings are actually over each other, just as a starting position. So that's now given me a guide on which I can now put a piece of plain track and make that exactly line up with that so that I can get this end and this end to match. Okay. Well, that's easily done. I've got a piece of spare track down here. All right. This was came as a result of me doing the diamond crossing. So if I make this the control, like that, shift and join to this turnout, it will snap into position. I just move it around until it snaps. It will snap. There you go. Don't worry about the timbering not being present there. That's not a problem. Adjust the length and then zoom in like this and adjust the curvature. Like that. If you want fine control over the curvature, you want to zoom in really close and get it absolutely bang on the money, which is pretty much here, you can use Shift @ sign and then curve, and you'll get very, very fine control. As you can see, a very fine control. Now that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. And the final thing to do is to get this turnout to be the control and reduce its length, or approach turnout length anyway, the turnout road length all the way across, and there, like that. Stop. And let's just zoom in over this bit. Now, as you can see, the timbers are a bit of a mess. Now, as far as I'm aware, there's no standard approach to timbering. I mean, each company did whatever they liked and made it up as they went along, more or less. But there are some rules. If you want to adjust the timbering and make this a little bit neater, it's imperative and the crossing nose is supported. And also your switch blades are supported. So what I can do here is I can see that if I take this timber right the way across, yes, it's going to whack into this, but that's okay. I can sort that out in a moment. But I've take that timber right across there. Basically, I would say from this one, 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 right the way across, I've got a very good starting position. And to do that, we simply take the template on which we want to manipulate the sleepering on and make it the control. And then we Shift F10. And here you'll see they're all numbered. You just select one of these and you can use the length, the shorten. I use the keyboard initially. Just press L and it will go across. Don't worry, it's going to crash straight into that one. That's not a problem. So just going to move that out the way. Just use L and make this like that. Probably S will shorten it. I think that probably needs to be that length. You can also set the timber lengths exact if you want to by using this entry. Just click here and you'll get an opportunity to set the exact length. If you want to make it not a 12-foot timber, but 12-inch timber, rather than and you want to make it a 14-inch timber, then you can select the width there as well. There are some pre-group railways that use pre-group 14-inch timbers. Okay, so that's all good. It doesn't take very long. It's a little bit time consuming to go through each one by one, but yeah, it's strangely therapeutic. Now, when you get to a timber like this, you could easily just leave it like that. And when you're constructing the turnout, you could either A, put a timber straight across, or B, you just cut those two and join them together. But here, those long ones definitely there, and you'll see the effect in a moment when we swap templates. Let's go over to the diamond like that and make that the control. Now you can see that X9, 8, 7D, 6C, 5B, 4A are not needed. So all we do is we select them, click O for omission. Yes, we are supporting the crossing or nose of the diamond. So that's perfect. Excellent. And now, having done that, we can turn our attention to the turnout, and we can do the same. Omit this. Oops, sorry. Omit this. Omit this. Omit. You often click the template by the turnout. That's it. That's it. So now we got a pretty neat timbering. And the last one we need to do is address this. Now, this one is going to be a little bit more awkward. We can either twist this one which is probably, and then interlace it there. Or we might be able to do something like this, which is called roll rails, which is an action on on the second one, control reel, this second menu, and that. Now, if you do control roll rails quite often, it's control F4, and you do that, and you'll see the sleepers go in. So when you get them like that, roughly like that, or even like that, yeah, that's probably better. Like that, like that. Stop. And when you're constructing it, you just simply put a, just trim your sleepers down there, and that will be absolutely fine. And yeah, make sure that is saved. And oh, just a little tidying up there. We got a gap. We don't want any gaps in the rails. So just adjust the length up like that. Yeah. Don't worry about the timbering there. We can adjust that later if we need to. And as a first cut, which I think is what we're aiming for, let's go back, and there is our turn. Yeah, we've lost that one. So I can easily put that. We've lost that rail, or we just didn't put it in. So I'll just finalize and put that one in there, and that one in there. Okay. So what I'll do is I will make these parallel, these dual track, put M there, and make this. It's going to be turnout double track on the main side, 44.67. As it's a transition, it says make automatic adjust. So we make automatic adjust. Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. Go down again to this one. Make that the control. And this one is double track turnout side. And just make it a little bit longer to join up to that. And make sure we've saved it. Zoom out. And there we are. That is our plan, which hopefully looks a bit like what we had on the PowerPoint slide. Okay, we're done. Hey, now what we'd like to do next is, before we close Templot, although I can't obviously demo this, I can demo the procedure of this. Having got this track plan done, and you're happy with it, you might want to print out the whole track plan or just a section of it, maybe just this part here for constructing that, and then use FlexiTrack for the rest of it. Okay, so to print this, you use the output menu, and you can have a choice of printing the background templates full size, or you can print them reduced size, print them onto a single sheet of paper, put them on a PDF document, right? There's all sorts of options. You can even print on roll, fancy plotters and roll printers. I don't have access to any of that fancy equipment, so I've never tried it. But there are a number of, if you've got a colleague who happens to have access to a plotter or a roll printer, and you can print out this in one gigantic sheet of paper, that's fantastic. Or you may find a print service that does it for you. Anyway, either way, when you print here, you will need initially to calibrate your printer. Now, my printer is shown here. I click OK. And Templot says, I don't know if this printer is calibrated or not. The first time you print, you'll need to calibrate your printer, or if you've changed your printer, you'll need to calibrate it. And so all you need to do is select the type of printer it is. Most of us use lasers or inkjets. And then it will say, calibrate this printer now. And that will print out a test page. You do some measurements, enter the measurements into Templot, and reprint another test page and verify the dimensions. I've got mine calibrated, so I just load it up. Yeah, there's the calibration. And there is a plan of attack. So it's going to print on a pretty 61 pages of A4. So that is going to be reasonably time consuming. But then you've got the wonderful job of trimming all these templates together. There are various strategies for doing that. And on a plan this size, it's going to take longer to stitch those templates together than it probably is to draw the track plan. But yeah, it's something you have to do. If you're using FlexiTrack, then I guess all you'd need to do in the short term is print out these templates here, which have the crossing and the diamond, which is C11, D11, D12, D13. And so just those 4 pages would allow you to get a picture or printout, and then you could do your construction. And when you print, you do get all the details, the sleeper ends and everything. So there are options to turn off and turn on various aspects. I suggest if you printing for the first time in Templot, just open Templot, put a simple B6 or B8 template turnout down, calibrate your printer, print it out, see the detail and see what's there. Just to test your printer. I wouldn't ever just do this as my first print. No way. But just to tell you, it can print the whole thing. So cancel that out. Nearly made a mistake and printed it. So that's it. So now what we need to do is to save our work. So we do Control B to bring up the storage box. And the storage box has a default name of Midland Central, which is printed on the templates. If you'd like to change that, just click Edit and say Box Title and give it a name like Expo EM 2021. And then you just click Save All. And what that will do is open up a file dialog where you can navigate to a suitable place. By default, you save it in the box files as a .box file. And I don't see any reason why to change that, but certainly you would need to perhaps create a folder to save the templates in an organized fashion. They have a unique timestamp on them, so there's no danger of overriding the file. So if you want to do version A, B, C, D of your plan, you can do that simply by saving it and without changing the name. So save it. It's now saved. It says this is there to export to what is called mech box transfer, unless you know what that is, and you probably will never do that. You can do your answers here, say no, never, for example, and that would be absolutely fine. And then that's it. Now everything's been saved and Templot can close. So close Templot, and it says you're about to quit Templot. Now, if you've changed any of the preferences, like we did, we selected that we didn't want to see menus. We selected that we wanted the menu options where they were spaced out. We want them narrow. We didn't want to see dialogues again, and so on. You just simply say, yes, save my current preferences. And that's done. Okay. So just to conclude, let's see what happens when we start Templot after we've done a plan. Go using my preferences. Yes, restore previous work. And it says Templot started using save program preferences. And you can leave that handy hint, or you can just say don't show again. All right. And you should see your menus have changed. Yes, they're back to narrow menus. And now that's fine. I didn't make any changes, so it's quite safe to save it again. And one final thing, just start Templot again. Supposing you're using Templot and you don't have access to the internet. You're away. All things being back to as normal as we possibly can. You're in a hotel or you are attending a model array exhibition, and you want to do some Templot work, or you have been asked to demonstrate Templot. You never know. You don't have an internet connection. Uh, ooh, how do you start Templot? You can't do it because it just won't start without an internet connection. Well, you could fire up your laptop or workstation with an internet connection, start Templot, then simply put your laptop to sleep without shutting it down, and that would work, assuming your battery lasts that long. Or there is a hidden trick, and this is really subtle. If you click this little TM mark for the trademark, you're invited to enter an RGB value for the control panel. If you enter the magic number of 10 red, 20 green, 30 blue, and click OK, yeah, you get a a funky black background. And now if you say go, or go using my preferences, although it says it connects to Templot, it doesn't actually. Look at that. Bang. Now that no way did that connect to templot.com. It was just too fast. And trust me, if you try this without any internet connection, that would start Templot. So that's a nice little trick there. I'll just restore my work. Yes, that's fine. Cool. So that's it. So I hope you've gained something from this demo. As I said, it was aimed for you who've never used Templot, tried to use Templot and gave up in complete frustration. Persevere. It is a quirky program. It does take time to get used to it. But for track plans like we've done today, yeah, it's quite straightforward once you get used to it. So have a go. Best of luck with it, and you will see my email coming up in a little while. So if you have any sort of follow-up questions, then please feel free to send me them. And if you did have any suggestions for future videos, because there is only a certain amount we can do in the time allocated. So as promised, if you have any Templot questions, you'd like to see another video on a specific subject like tandems, three-ways, perhaps even creating a bespoke turnout, although that will be quite a long video, but still happy to have a go at it, then yeah, that's my email there, right in front of you. And so that I can filter it out from any other emails I may receive, if you use the subject template question, that will be absolutely fine. You could use the subject template question or templot question. Either will do, as long as it's pretty obvious what it is. So without further ado, thanks very much. I hope you found it useful, and all the best with your Templot endeavors. Do stick at it. I know it's been said many times. Perseverance pays dividends. Patience, practice makes perfect, and so on. It is a quirky program, but it is very, very good at what it does. And stick with it. You will get it. Even if you just stick a turnout onto Templot and just print it as a template for construction without worrying about the track plan, at least you will get an accurate template for your turnouts, and provided you build them accurately and carefully, then you'll get nice and smooth running. So all the best. It's been my pleasure to do the video, and hopefully we'll see each other at an exhibition in the not too near distant future. Thanks very much, and all the best. Keep safe.